Hi, I'm Tasha with Pathways to Peace Counseling, and we are going to talk about impulse control games. So, all sorts of games that you can help with kids who struggle with impulse control and maybe have ADHD. And these are all under $20. Most of them are under $10. And I always try to keep things super affordable for you guys. So, the first one is Connect for Launchers, and this one is so fun. You get to launch these little checkers or circles, whatever you want to call them, onto a board, and you're going to try to get four in a row. And so you're covering up each other's checkers, and it's like if you push down too hard and you launch it too hard, it goes over the top of the board. If you do it too soft, it doesn't make it in. You have to pay attention to which way your launcher is facing. There's so many different things that go into it that if kids aren't really paying attention, they struggle with it. So they have to kind of settle down, focus on what they're doing, and really take aim in order to do well with this game. And especially my ADHD kids love, love, love this game. So it's super fun and engaging and active. So it is a release of energy for them as well because they're having to get up and chase their little checkers all over the room most of the time. But it's very great. And for frustration tolerance, lots of stuff. And I do have a full game review. And I forgot to mention, I'm reading to you guys off of a blog post that I have. If you want to follow along and get links to the games, you can go to pathways to peace counseling.com, and I have a search bar up there. So just look for impulse control games, and this blog post should pop right up for you. And I will leave a link in the description as well. You're a Hoot. This game is great for kids who need to work on how to be respectful whenever they're telling jokes or using humor. It's all about boundaries and knowing what is appropriate to say, what's not appropriate to say. They get to tell jokes as part of the game. It's really fun and engaging, but it's all about steering that humor in an appropriate way because we don't want to kill the joy that they have of being able to be funny. You know, for kids, a lot of times it's part of their identity. So we don't want to squash it, but we want to aim it in an inappropriate way. So teaching them how to be funny without being offensive. The next one is called Level Up. It's a game about winning at life. And this game has a video game theme to it, but it's all about when you're making good decisions, it's like you're moving up in life. When you make bad decisions, it's like you have to repeat a level. And it's about learning opportunities. It talks about surrounding yourself with people who are going to help you be successful, and that choosing your friends wisely is an important part of winning at life. Um, it's really a fun game that kids really enjoy, especially kids that like video games. It's a way to kind of hook them in to their interest to keep them engaged in the game as well. Another one is pickup sticks. So you take all the sticks and you just drop them, and you kind of want them to fall in a random way where they're kind of facing every which way. And so I like to drop them really slowly and kind of twist them around as I drop them so that they don't just fall in one big clump. And then you have to pick up one stick at a time without moving the other sticks around. And so it takes a whole lot of self-control and focus in order to do that. And it's quite challenging. And so this one is a great one for kids that just need to slow down and really pay attention to what they're doing. Mousetrap. Kids love this game. It is so great. So the deal with this one, you got to ditch the rules. The rules take away most of the therapeutic value of it, and it makes the game super boring. So if you just ditch the rules, you're basically just going to take out the game board, dump all the parts out on the table, and say, all right, let's put it together. And I kind of leave it to them. And that makes them ask me questions like, where does this one go? Where does this one go? How does this all go together? And then I'm happy to engage with them. So I'm right there and a part of it. And I'll intervene if I can tell that there's some frustration that's building too far. But it's a great way for kids to learn problem solving skills. And a lot of times kids will experiment with it. Like they'll try to figure out, if they put little mice in along the way, if it's going to throw things off and make it not work, or maybe they'll replace the diver with a mouse. There's lots of little ways that kids like to tweak it. And so I let them go at it and just kind of figure things out. And they really do learn a lot of skills by playing this game, and it's great for communication. And if you don't get it all together right, it's not going to work. And so it really opens up a lot of impulse control stuff of if you don't keep calm and do it right, it's not going to work for you. Um, Here is one called Attention Alien Abductors. This is great for kids with ADHD. It really focuses on all the stuff that goes along with ADHD. So it focuses on disorganization, focus, social skills, how to get organized and tune in to what they're doing in school, brain breaks to release pent up energy. There's just a lot of really good stuff in this one. And Mental Fills makes really good quality games with lots of information in them. And so I've gotten quite a few of them and they have been really great. And I started with these really before I started making a lot of my own games. Chutes and Ladders is great for kids who just find themselves in trouble a lot because it's all about logical consequences. And that's like my niche, my parenting technique whenever I work with kids with ADHD is, if kids can learn to feel the pain of making a bad choice, you don't want to make them wallow in it. You want them to, you want to show lots of love and empathy and support, but also allow them to feel it and not rescue them from it so that they learn how to manage better. And so in Chutes and Ladders, all the pictures on the board are about when you make good choices, you get to go up the ladders. When you make bad choices, then you have to go down the slide. And life is like that, right? For all of us, when we make good choices, it's like we're getting ahead in life. But if I decide to speed on the highway and I get a ticket, then I'm going to have to work that much harder to make extra money to cover up what I had to pay a ticket for, right? So we all learn in life, it's just part of the real world that there's consequences whenever we don't do what's right, and it sets us back when we make these bad choices. Self-control fishing game. So this is a cute little game, a file folder game that you can store away super easy, and kids can go fishing and answer the questions on the fish. And so it's all about helping kids become aware of their triggers and how to cope with their impulses. So it's a simple little thing. It would be great for your littles. Jenga. You can't just go in like a wrecking ball and play Jenga and get ahead. And, this is another one that my ADHD kids absolutely love it. It's like they know what they need and they kind of gravitate towards those games that work on impulse control because that's what they need to overcome. And it's like this kind of subconscious drive that they have towards these games. And so Jenga gets used in my room a whole lot. And they have to focus and they have to use so much self-control and it just helps them every time they do it. It's like you can see that they're learning new skills to calm their bodies. And sometimes if I see that they're doing the same things, like I have kind of a wobbly table in my room. And I was playing this with a boy last week and he kept bumping the table and he was getting so frustrated because it was falling down. And I was like, hey, buddy, I think that next time you do it, be really cautious that you don't touch the table. And once he figured that out, he was like on top of the world. He's like, I'm going to win. And I made sure that he won so that he could kind of get that sense of um, accomplishment from overcoming his challenges. The next one is putting a stop to stealing. So this one's very specific. I would only play this with children who do steal. It teaches a lot of skills to get to the heart of the issue so that they can figure out what is their motivation for stealing. I find a lot of kids with trauma have issues with stealing, and a lot of times they're just trying to fill that void of loss and grief and pain, and they're finding a very unhealthy way of doing it. And so the game really helps them pull up those motivations. And if they can recognize why they're doing it, then we can come up with another way for them to feel good so that they don't constantly feel like they've got to take things in order to meet that need. Another one is learning to be thankful for what they have. And if they can change the way that they think about things, like sometimes kids will think in their mind, I'm only going to be happy if I have those scented markers that Carrie over there has. And so I need to steal Carrie's markers to be happy. That's a very destructive thought. And if they act on those thoughts, then they're going to have a lot of trouble. And so we learn, okay, you know what? Happiness doesn't come from scented markers. Let's think of other ways that happiness comes in my life. And then they're able to reframe it and realize that maybe they were lying to themselves, thinking that those scented markers were going to bring them unending joy. So self-talk is a lot of it, and rescripting being empathetic of, how would you feel if you were the one with the scented markers and somebody stole your scented markers? And that, that gets a lot of them is once they start putting themselves in other people's shoes, it does make a big difference in how they feel about it. Operation takes a lot of self-control because they don't want that buzz. And whenever they're sitting there with those little tweezers getting in there and that buzz makes them jump, they're like, and it really helps them hone in and calm themselves down and focus. Now, this one is called just self-control games. And so it's a inexpensive download with a bunch of games that kids can use to learn body awareness, triggers, and ways to manage their impulses. You have lots of options for how to play with kids. And so you like it, and a lot of it overlaps. Like it's the same stuff, but it's in a different format. So whether you want to do the cards or you want to do the dice game, there's different ways to play for what appeals best to whichever kid it is that you're working with and what their preferences are. So there's a lot, and this scratches the surface. There's really so many things that you can do to help children with impulse control. And I have games for everything else too. So if you need games like games that you can play for free, games for anger, anxiety, grief, I'm the game lady. I've got lots and lots and lots of games. I've got games that I've made. I've got over 70 books and games that I've made. But I put everybody's stuff out there. I am not selective and I want to encourage and equip everybody that's put their heart into making games because you know what? We need to help children. And if we all do our part and we all support each other, I want those games to get out to everybody. And so if you know of games for impulse control that aren't on the list, drop me a message and let me know. And I want to continue to grow and give people as many resources as possible so that we can help kids in every way that we can. So check back. I've got more videos coming, and I'm glad that you took time to listen today, and I will catch you next time.